At most universities, students show up and then they're immediately dispersed, right? There are all these different silos. You could be interested in economics or poetry or engineering, and you have these kind of general education requirements, but there's a menu of like 500 different choices, and you just pick things that check boxes. And so rather than creating a community that has kind of intellectual continuity, where we have common conversations, we immediately fragment the student community. So at University of Austin, for the first 2 years, our students undertake almost exclusively what we call the Intellectual Foundations Program. And that is a series of courses that are designed to look at the great human questions from all different disciplines across the liberal arts: politics, philosophy, history, mathematics, hard sciences, music, etc. And the courses are all taken in common by the students. So they all take the same courses together in the same sequence. They'll be in a smaller section, but that means that all of our students in each cohort are reading the same things at the same time. So they all might be reading, the Principia, or they might be reading Brothers Karamazov, or they might be reading Othello, or they might be reading Jane Austen, or whatever it is. And what that does is it means that that group of students has a common intellectual journey. That the questions that they're thinking about as a cohort. And what happens there is that the experience in the classroom spills out to their experience at the university, right? So you have this kind of cross-pollination. You'll be sitting at, the dining table, and somebody will be like, well, what do you think? Was Antigone right or wrong? We're talking about it in my section. You have the same point of contact, or, having that common intellectual journey, I think, weaves together a community of truth seekers. They may have different opinions and different ideas about what's being discussed, but they have a touch point. And what happens at that point is when you start talking about the great human questions and thinking about the big things that matter together, you start to create a community of trust. And in creating that community of trust, when you get to those questions that are really vexing, the things that we're dealing with today, issues of race or gender or peace or that, you've already built a common vocabulary amongst yourselves and the ability to talk about important things. And so that, that circle of trust extends both within the classroom and outside, and it allows you to have conversations that maybe are difficult to have in the rest of the world where everybody remains fragmented.
One of the things that I think is really problematic in our society today is how much we know. And it's really not knowledge, it's beliefs. So we carry our beliefs and turn that into what we think is knowledge. And I see you kind of peeling that back. It's like, no, you don't need to know. You just need to explore, be curious, and you have this safe environment with which to have these conversations with other people.
Civil discourse is the discourse or the conversation that builds civil society. So it's a productive way of thinking about conversation. It's not a debate, it's a discussion. And I often say that, when you come together with people who have different ideas, one idea and another idea should not equal two ideas, they should equal better ideas. And the keystone for developing civil discourse is intellectual humility. That's the starting point. If you can begin and say, look, we are all human beings. We're all trying to figure the world out. We make more mistakes than we'd ever care to admit about most things. We know some things. We think we know a lot more than we actually know. I'm at this institution to learn how to fill the gaps in my knowledge, and maybe to learn whether or not my knowledge is actually as stable as I think it is. If you begin with that sense of intellectual humility, again, and this goes back to Socrates, if you begin with intellectual humility, you open yourself up. And in opening yourself up, you allow yourself to come into contact with ideas that may be persuasive or may sharpen your own idea.